But based on the projections we have now, we would have the capacity for elementary in the next 5-6 years, the life of this bond. And we'd also need to look at middle school capacity. The growth isn't anticipated to be as high there, but just looking at how we can spread the student load so that we make sure that kids are in classrooms that aren't overcrowded and those kinds of things. Another part of that growth was the parking and traffic situation at Camas High School.
And I know you got a lot of people watching that are listening to this. I have friends that have kids in high school. It's a big problem.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, especially at two specific times in our day, right? When school's starting and when school's getting out. And so we've looked at a partnership with the city to expand the entryways into Camas High. So right now everybody goes through one spot, which is very problematic. So we're looking at increasing some parking capacity and having multiple entry points from the backside of Camas High in, working with the city around some traffic lights down as well. So one of the great things about being in our community is the partnership between city, schools, community members, and so even Alicia's co-chair Phil works for the city, and so there's a lot of dialogue about how we can do that together to come up with solutions. And hard to explain those in a video clip interview, but on our website is a lot of information around the recommendations from the committee, and as in the flyer that Alicia referenced to, even to the point where they have some map versions of what it would look like if the bond were to pass. The fourth area is around community enrichment and looking at facilities and ways that we can expand opportunities for kids during the school day, but also after the school day. In past bonds, Doc Harris Stadium would be an example of that.
I saw that on there. Some improvements there and some changes.
And the big piece of that was a recommendation to look at the Joyce Garver Auditorium and to look at bringing that back online and also creating a community kind of preschool center there. And so that has been a jewel in our community that hasn't been given the chance to shine the last 5 to 10 years. And so the committee looked long and hard at that and felt like that we could bring that on board. So concerts in our community, whether they're schools or other kinds of concerts, could end up at the Joyce Garver Auditorium, which would be great for kids and great for audience members.
It would be great. I'm all about restoring beautiful things and instead of just tearing them down and rebuilding. So that would be really neat to bring that back online. Just to get a little bit into the nitty-gritty, I had a question for you. What was that? Well, first of all, I know there's a lot of talk about this second high school that's needed, this second high school that's needed, and seems like there's no real answer to it or nobody wants to answer it. And I know that this bond is supposed to kind of take us to the point where then we're needing something. So is there any plans for expanding? When you talked about Lacamas Elementary, I know there had been talk of combining that with the high school, but it sounds like it would be renovated to be an elementary school. So is anything happening with the high school or no? I just hear parking.
So yeah, so what would happen is we'd build a new Lacamas High School, Lacamas Heights Elementary, north of Lake. We have property for that. So this bond would take care of that. And then once that was ready, the Lacamas Heights Elementary students would move up there.
I see.
That would free up the Lacamas Heights Elementary campus as it exists now to perhaps be a partnership with Camas High. It also creates those entry points in the long term. There's actually a phase 1 of the traffic parking plan, and then a phase 2 that would take effect after the Lacamas Heights site would be new. The new school, the new high school that we're building would be just south of the track, Carden Field there, adjacent to Camas High. It would have about a 600 student capacity, and it would be focused on what's called project-based learning. And so the committee that Alicia co-chaired actually directed another committee to do some more exploration because we spent all spring talking about a lot of issues to bring forward with the bond, but we needed more time to think about this second comprehensive high school, or what do we do for our high school students. And so looking at the numbers of kids that we were going to have and to try to create equitable experiences for kids in the short term and long term, the recommendation was to look at trying to bring another choice online for kids. So instead of like saying this group you go to this school, this group you go to that school, really creating a system in Camas where as an 8th grader or 9th grader you're going to select what kind of a learning environment you want. The traditional comprehensive high school is great. It offers lots of choice. It offers, you know, there's a lot of kids, a lot of things going on there. We have a wonderful Hayes Freedom High School right now that offers maybe a little more intimate, smaller setting, block schedule as opposed to a 6-period day schedule. This school would come online and really center the learning around authentic experiences like real-world application. So for example, you would have a team of kids that would come together with 2 or 3 teachers that would lead those kids. And instead of going through their day like science, English, math, PE, their experience would be integrated through those teachers. And there would be a unifying project that would kind of tie that all together. So an example of that for our community would be great was like, how do we solve our traffic problem in Camas, right? And so the kids would take that on. They would look at how math standards integrate into that. They would look at how English standards might integrate into that. They'd do the research around that. There would be an authentic audience like City Hall or whatever, and they would come and present their proposal. That would happen over a longer period of time than the typical projects that we think of now that are more like kind of extensions of what they're learning in class. And then, so I guess instead of a breadth of coverage, you really go deep with the learning, and then you're able to apply what you learn at a different level. That's not for everybody, right? We want choices for those kids so that they can select the comprehensive model, or they can think about different ways, the smaller community Hayes or this project-based learning thing.
So when my daughter asks what in the heck she's gonna ever use the math she's doing now for, you might be able to use it in a project that you work on right now that you can see in the future if you were working for the city with urban planning. It's applicable.
Yeah, when we visited different school sites and talked to kids that were in these settings, and just unbelievable the ownership they had for the projects they were working on. One of the schools we went at, actually their team was looking at gun violence in America. And their group decided to do a documentary on it. And so through the documentary, they had a funding team that was looking at the math and the research around that. They had their ELA their literacy standards were about writing scripts and going out and talking to people about this. And then they produced this amazing documentary. So stuff that's really a legacy to their learning. Still the same standards. These kids would achieve the same as other kids in other schools.
Just a different way.
Just a different way of doing it. And so we're excited about that. And yeah.
I would be. I am. Cool. Sounds great. And just so that people understand a bond a little bit better, and please correct me because I'm learning a lot today, and we're always learning. So there is a bond that was voted on that is still going right now, if you can envision it, and there is a nice, beautiful diagram in the flyer you're going to get. But as bonds get older, they tend to wean off. The money goes down. So when we vote for new bonds, it helps add a little bit to the bond going on now. And as that one tapers off, we're able still to keep the number high from the new bond that was voted.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, it's a good way of describing it. The school board here, we have a wonderful school board, and they really are in tune with the community and really progressive just in terms of thinking about the future. And their goal is to try to keep tax rates as consistent as they can over time. We've had bonds in place since 1994, really was the first phase of this. With if you can think of Sky Ridge Middle School would be the signature piece of that bond. And then we added Prune Hill in the next bond. And then Helen Ballard and Grass Valley. So you've seen over time, if you've been in our community, the progression of the planning. And so as those bonds get paid off, along the way we try to refinance those and give savings back to the taxpayers. But when they're paid off, then the idea is that you probably have to fill in with a new bond and keep that tax rate consistent if your community continues to grow. You don't want to wait too long. I mean, I'm sure our parents of Camas High students right now, you're feeling it. And unfortunately, the way we're funded in schools, you kind of have to feel it before you can get money to build it. And so you're working usually around a couple.
We got to feel it, people.
So it's just being thoughtful about it and thinking long term. So with this bond, it would come on, and we'd start paying. I think as taxpayers, 2017, we'd start paying for it.
Okay.
And then 2020, 2021, those years, we'd have bonds start to fall off again, and that would probably be the time as a community that if we continue to grow, we'd be thinking about do we need another another comprehensive high school campus, or what does it look like in the future? And our job as leaders in our community today is to just try to serve the people we serve currently, and leave the resources in place for people in the future to make those decisions.
So true. Because even what we're talking about today, it's interesting when you look at it. My kids probably aren't even going to see some of these things. Maybe I'm not talking about this bond, but future bonds or these future high schools and types of things. We're creating the future for my kids, or these new people moving into Camas and helping shape their lives, hopefully for the better, and to make a good difference out there. Yeah. Alicia, I just want to end with touching base on, this sounds like quite an experience, and I'm not just saying this because I'm your friend. I really appreciate the time and dedication you give to the schools and to these big decisions. It's really giving of you, and I know it's your time and your energy, so thank you for doing that.
Thanks. Well, my mom was an educator. She was a special ed teacher in Michigan, and a
Go Michigan. I know she's doing her Michigan plug.
Everything, but you just, when you grow up with people and in a community that values education, I think you tend to do that. And something you just said made me think that when we're talking to people about their thoughts, we're also asking them, what questions do you have? What can we tell you? And you're not alone. This is a lot of information to grasp, so we want to put it all out there. But we also have talked to people who have recently moved to Camas as empty nesters from other places, because they know it's good schools. There are good schools here too. They don't have kids who are going to go to those schools, but they want to be in a community that values education, because you have people who think deeply and get involved and care about things and care about the arts. And, I just think that's a really cool. So if anybody has any questions, they can ask any principal. They can call the district office. There's lots of information on the school district website.
Okay.
And then there's another, our group is called Camas Citizens for Quality Schools, at CCQS. And we have a website, voteyescamas.org. And there's Facebook pages, so there's lots of ways you can ask questions. We will never shy away from giving you information, from dealing with hard questions.
You got nothing to hide.
That's part of this. People can ask what they need to.
All right. And so just so people are clear, this is a yes or no vote. Is that how the ballot will come? Yes or no, I'm assuming? Yes. Oh, just yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and when is it going to be mailed? January, what did one of you say? I'm sorry,
The
Jeff.
ballots come out January 22nd.
Okay.
And then the deadline to vote is February 9th.
Yes, as you can see on our whiteboard back here. And so they can either mail that in, or there will be locations to go vote as usual in the past years, the elementary schools and that type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. This is a big topic. It's a lot to cover, and I think there are a lot of questions out there. I hope that we've answered some of them for you, because it's an important decision. But as a Camas resident, I do think it is one, aside from so many other things, it really is a beautiful thing of this city. It's our schools, and having kids in the schools right now, I'm pretty passionate about it. My grandparents that have lived in Camas for over 50 years, they've seen generations come in and out, and they are still paying those taxes and love seeing all the neat people, the great kids, and the experiences that these bonds can offer. So think about it when you vote, and make sure you educate yourself and know what you're voting on. So thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
All right. This is Just a Girl in Camas, Alicia King. Thank you.